this is my name, and I founded the Future Journalism Today over 3 years ago. Before that, I worked at Google, at the Google News Lab. And with this talk, I would like to tell you a bit more about what creative businesses are doing, or creative people when designing and developing new things, new projects. So let me show you a couple of these things. And maybe some of you might be afraid of AI. Can I see some hands, people that might be afraid of AI as well? Maybe on a personal level or from a user perspective? Well, there are just a few. Now, a couple of months ago, I bought these pants from an Italian company. And I would like to ask you, I could have worn it, I'd like to ask you if you see, can you tell me what you see in these pants? A dog, right? Yes, this pants was made by an Italian designer agency called Capable, or Capable. And they designed these pants as an AI camouflage, so that when you were out on the street and when you wear these pants, the AI, the smart cameras, cannot see you. They think you are a dog. As I will show you, I used a Google computer vision application, and this is, when I wore the pants, this is what the computer saw. So it says a nose, a mammal, a snout, as you can see. So terrestrial animal, so it thinks I'm a mammal instead of a person, and it can't recognize me. And they made this image. As you see, some smart cameras think it's a giraffe. And they have pants, and they have sweaters and hoodies and stuff like that. It's not cheap, I have to say. But it's interesting. But, so I could have worn these pants, but also I'm wearing a shirt by a company called Son of a Tailor. They're from Denmark, and this shirt is actually made by them. But it's also made by a machine, because what you have to do when you order online, when you go to Son of a Tailor, you give 4 variables. So 4 features. It's your length, your shoe size, your weight, and your age. And based on that, they have 100,000 of measurements of other men. They only sell men clothing. They calculate the right sizes for your sleeves and for your head and the sizes. So it's a custom fit, and they print it on demand using this machine. So it's very high tech, but they're also called Son of a Tailor, which is, I think, very craftsmanship. So they use AI to calculate and make a custom on-demand clothing. And I could have worn these pants and the shirts at the same time. So I have doubts as well, but I'm also very enthusiastic about the possibilities that AI bring for creative businesses. So
AI, generative AI, generative AI, generative AI. AI. It uses AI to bring AI.
And as you can see, a lot of people are very enthusiastic. You might have seen that this is Sundar Pichai from the Alphabet and Google CEO. And I think this was his last keynote from May this year. It was a 12-minute keynote, and he mentioned AI 48 times or so, something like that. And this is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Gartner Hype Cycle models. This was the model for last year, and as you can see, generative AI is right there with responsible AI. It's almost at the top of the peak of inflated expectations. This year they've updated. And now we're almost there, as they say, at the top of the roller coaster. I don't know where we will be next year. Will we be in the trough of disillusionment? I don't think so. I think we're running up to the slope of enlightenment and see where business cases and use cases are actually using AI to solve practical problems. And then we'll get to the plateau of productivity. But with this talk, I would also like to go into, say, creativity, how to use AI to open conceptual doors in your brains. So not just to solve problems in your day-to-day business, but also think about maybe new business or new ways of working. So I just learned a couple of weeks ago that the old AI is now called the discriminative AI. And there is this machine. I'm showing you quite some Google examples because I used to work there and I know a lot of these applications. This is a teachable machine, and you can use it yourself. And if you show it an image of a banana, you can build a classifier. You can build a machine learning model that tells you if your banana is ripe or too late or not ripe. And you can use this for any kinds of things. You can use it to distinguish between you and your coworker just for fun. And it's a fun tool to understand how you can train a model just by recording something in front of your webcam, and then have a model trained, and then it shows you, if you hold up a banana to the webcam, it shows you if it's too early, ripe, too late, or not a banana. You can train systems like this in 7 minutes just in your browser. You don't need to pay, you don't have to install anything. And when I showed this last year to a couple of investigative journalists in the Netherlands, they were working on an article finding out where the Russians were digging trenches in the eastern part of the Ukraine. They've heard about it, but they wanted to see how big these trenches were and which parts of Ukraine they were being dug. And they had no way of assessing that. But they had access to satellite imagery. And what they did is they trained a model to spot trenches in satellite imagery taken of the eastern part of Ukraine. And they made an article, and this is Dutch, and it means the Russians are digging these trenches massively. And what they were able to do by training the model, and they used the teachable machine, the same funny thing that I used for the banana, they used that to tell the machine, this is a trench, this is not a trench. They had some false positives, like a farm road or a little creek running next to a farm road, and the machine said this might be a trench, and they had to retrain it, say no, it's not a trench. And then they were able to show their readers a map. They could plot, based on the machine learning model, which they taught using teachable machine, to plot it on a map and saying this is where all these trenches are being dug by the Russians, so they could provide their users with a service. Now, another Dutch interesting project is classifying online hate speech. We had elections, we have new elections coming up. We had elections in 2021. As you may know, on Twitter there is a lot of hate also aimed at female politicians. And this investigative journalism newsroom, the Groene Amsterdammer, they used a model from Amnesty International to classify hate speech. So they downloaded 1.3 million tweets aimed at female politicians, and it could have something like, you ugly fat traitor, something like that. And then 4 people in the team, 4 humans, they had to classify if it was aggressive, hateful, or nothing. And then if it was aggressive or hateful, they would have to say if it's aimed at gender, ethnicity, religion, body, and stuff like that. And they used 2,600 tweets manually to classify and label them manually based on this annotation scheme by Amnesty International. And with that, they were able to classify around 500,000 tweets, which they could have never have done on their own as a human task. And based on that, they had gained evidence. They've built up evidence, and they could show it to the female politicians. And because they had the evidence, and it was not anecdotal, the female politicians were willing to give an interview to this magazine, because otherwise they might have not. And now it was not anecdotal anymore. They had the evidence, which they got by using a machine, by training a machine learning model. And then they had this big piece, and they won many awards for doing investigative research like this, which would have never been able before using machine learning. Now, I don't know if you play Legos or you know someone who plays with Legos. This is a really interesting app called Brickit, and it's best to show what it does. And I hope there's a movie here. Let me see. I hope that the technicians can click on it, because what it does, I can show you a little bit. You put out your Lego bricks on the floor, on a table. You scan it with your smartphone, and we have to wait. You scan it with your smartphone, and then it counts the bricks you have. And I can see it on screen here, but not on that screen. So yes, if we can switch to that screen, it would be nice to. It gives you ideas on what to build with your bricks. Just have to wait for 1 second, if it's possible to switch the screens. Yeah, they're trying to figure it out. Well, I'll go for the there it is. There it is. If we can rewind it, because it's a very short clip. There's no music. So you put out your bricks on the floor. You scan it with your smartphone. The app is called Brickit. Then it recognizes all the different bricks, and it can count. No human can count as fast as this machine. And then what it does, it gives you an idea on what to build with these actual bricks that you have out there on your floor or on your table. And then when you say, oh, I would like to, well, not this dog, maybe there's another dog, just maybe give me this dog. I would like to create this dog, and then it gives you a guide on how to actually build it. And this is not a real promotional video. In my experience, it doesn't always count every brick if it's covered by other bricks, but it works quite well. So yes, thank you. If you can switch back to the presentation again. I have to wait for a little bit. So I was wondering, what if you would have this tool, this Brickit for your business, if you have all your documents and all your analytics and all your data, and you could just take a snapshot of it and it would tell you what you could do with it. Now, there was in the Netherlands, we have an advertising code committee, and what they did, there are many influencers in the Netherlands on YouTube, and sometimes they use products which they get sponsored but they don't mention, and they're in violation of a code. And then this committee built a machine learning using Deus AI, which is a company from the Netherlands as well. And they made a model which downloads all these YouTube videos, analyzes the text, but also the imagery, and then tells the committee if a influencer is in violation or not. And they used a model, obviously they trained a machine learning model, to do the analysis, because there are many influencers. They put out many videos a day, so no human would be able to analyze that. But now we have the generative AI, because this was all discriminative AI. And you might have heard about Adobe Firefly coming up with things like this, that you can say, friendly dragon, this is your prompt emerging from the clouds. But also, if you have imagery and you want to put it out on social, they have now new generative AI capabilities for that. And this is, I think, what people are really enthusiastic about. You can just say, I have this image, but I want it to be on a beach, for example. So you just describe what you want to generate. And then you say beach, and then this lizard thing is on the beach. Now, this is already very impressive. And now, I think 2 weeks ago, ChatGPT with GPT-4, the model, it's the paid version of ChatGPT, they opened up this capability which lets you make sense of imagery. So I uploaded this information chart on hot summers in the Netherlands, and I just asked, I uploaded this image and asked, what do you see? And then it tells you, and it's in Dutch, as you might have noticed. It even translates the image, and it tells you it's about the 20th warmest summers, what the colors mean, what the trends are, so it can make sense of imagery. And I thought, well, so say if you're not really well versed in some task or some specific expertise, you could just say, I'm not a data journalist, but I know quite some. And I said, I'll show you a data set, and can you tell me a bit about the interesting facts about this happiness data set? I want it to be visualized, I need to write an article, and it could do all this. It generated the imageries, it gave me some sense of what's in the data sets, it showed me about some highlights about certain types of happiness that people achieve during their lives. And it all did this just by asking this one prompt. I've uploaded the data set, just a simple CSV, and then it made sense for me, and then I could work with that. So this is really very powerful. It's in the hands of just regular users, you would say. And then this tweet came up. You can use GPT-4 for all these things like describe, interpret, recommend, convert, extract, assist, evaluate. These are all use cases that just regular users might use, but also professionals working on their day-to-day tasks. They could use GPT version 4 to do all these kinds of things, like task solution and solve specific visual-based tasks, right? And I think that's very powerful that we now have generative AI that helps us to reason or analyze by just using natural language. And well, this is just one or few use cases of generative AI. But I wanted to ask, who of you knows what or whose data ChatGPT is trained on? Does anyone know? Because no one really knows, in a way. And then there was the Washington Post, and they did this analysis a couple of months ago inside the secret list of websites that make AI like ChatGPT sound smart. And then they found that there's a data set which is called Common Crawl, which is sort of compiled by Google, which also use BOK.org as a notorious market for pirated ebooks. So we know there are a lot of discussions about copyrights and if people gave permission to use these data sets. But there's also another thing which we need to know, because this talk is also about how AI might impact society. This is when you go to a special website called missjourney.ai. When you ask for a portrait of a civil engineer, you get only images like this. And you might doubt this and say, well, this is not what I expected to have a civil engineer look like. But some research said that if you ask an AI to visualize a professional, less than 20% are women. And that's mostly not the case when you look at the reality, you look at society. So this Midjourney.ai, what they do is they rebias your prompt. So if you say, I want a portrait of a teacher, underneath it adds of a female or of a woman, so that you only get female teachers and a variety of female teachers with that. Now, to go a bit more dark, this was more than a year ago when I asked Stable Diffusion to create me a Michael, a person that could be a Michael. It gave me these, generated these images. And then someone thought, if you add an A and you ask for a Michaela, you get images like this. And the system here, as you can see on the bottom right, says this is unsafe content. So its own filters are not allowed to display these images. But I think there's a fair discrepancy between how males are depicted with generative AI and females. And maybe in October 2023, you might not get these images anymore. But they were trained on data, which we now know a little bit of, that they use text-image pairs. So we have these crawlers going all over the web. And they probably have more training data with Michaelas that look like this in a data set, because it's images with descriptions and alt tags. And that's how the system learns. So if it takes stuff from the web, this is what's the dominant way of displaying females that are called Michaela on the web. So if you know this, then another thing, with DALL-E 2, DALL-E 3 just launched a couple of weeks ago. This was with DALL-E 2, a reporter from Slate magazine. He wanted to find out if DALL-E was able to generate older couples of color. And he couldn't make it work. He just got white people every time he did the prompt. So someone said, your prompt might be wrong. And then he did this. So his prompt was, I want a photorealistic portrait of a poor couple. And because he added the word poor, he got a colored couple. And that's, if you now know that it works with text-image pairs, so the words that describe images are used to train. So the AI system only knows, yeah, if you want colored people, I don't know what colored people are, but if this is the result you want, those results are mostly found in my training data set, which have the word poor next to it. So this is more how it works. But then, just for a little laugh, that has been together for 50 years. I think the system got it quite right. The age is quite right. Holding hands, if you look at the hands, there's something really weird going on, right? They're holding an extra elbow or something. And then after a fight, and you can see if you look at the man, they've probably been in a fight. So the system gets quite some things right too. But then one more thing. So this is from Mozilla Foundation. They did some research of where the training data sets come from. So if we train AI to know the world based on the internet, then this is how the world is represented on the internet. So as you can see, the US and Europe are very large, but if you live in Chile or Kenya, there's hardly any, there's way less material to train on. So this is how AI is being trained on these data sets that come from this. So to go into the creative process, I'll just show you some examples for each phase. This is how most creative people work. They get an assignment, they discover, and then so they go broad. Then they define, because they have a brief, obviously. Then they develop ideas to come up with solutions, and then obviously they have to execute, which is called deliver. Now this is a tool by Google called Pinpoint, and what it can do, you can upload all your documents, doesn't really matter what file type, and then it filters the collection on entities. So this is named entity recognition. It knows people, it knows locations, and it knows organizations. And it automatically extracts these entities from your documents. It could be PDFs, but it could also be audio files, which it transcribes. And now they have this extract structured data. So if you have PDFs which are not searchable, or maybe handwritten, or maybe copied, you can upload them, and then you can say, this is the tables that I want to convert into real, actual spreadsheets. And then it gives you an actual spreadsheet, which you can then use in Excel or Google Sheets or whatever, which is really interesting. Now, with ChatGPT, this is an interesting thing what you can do when you discover if you do a conversation with these chatbots. And it took quite a long time. At the end, you can say, if I were to ask you this all over, What would be your advice? What should I change? So it sort of summarizes what you did, and it gives you advice on how to do it better next time. This is what they call the meta prompt. So do it at the end of your conversation. And then for the define process, I might have to, this is, I can tell, because it doesn't play. What it does is you sketch out say a wireframe of your app that you have in mind when you're brainstorming or briefing a developer. And what it does, you just draw it out on a piece of paper, you take a picture of it, and the same thing as with Brickit, it builds your hand-drawn sketch of an interface into as you can see here. So this is hand-drawn, you upload it, and it converts them into digital wireframes, which you can even make interactive. So it starts with an idea, which you sketch out, and you don't have to be an illustrator. And then with Wizard, or UIzard, you can readily, easily generate prototypes like this. So let's go to the next slide, because we have to wrap it up. So if we can go back to the main presentation, then yeah. Let me see if it's, yeah. So a few short things. This is developed. This is what IKEA does when they want to find out what kind of new, maybe bedroom items they want to design. They trained AI software to come up with new bedroom ideas based on their old catalog. And if you look at it for quite a long time, it's a really weird image, right? But they take the rug as inspiration, and they might design a real rug that was based on this AI-generated rug. Or maybe the cupboard on the left is very organic. Is it a plant? Is it a cupboard? They might take that as a cue, as inspiration to design a more organic-based cupboard. So it's interesting that IKEA uses these things for inspiration. And
image generation models have taken the world by storm. It's now possible for anyone to turn their ideas into images using nothing but words. The explosion of creativity these models unleashed was years in the making. In 2021, Runway introduced latent diffusion, an AI system that was able to generate realistic images using an improved image generation technique. And in 2022, Stable Diffusion, a further improved version of latent diffusion that caused a tidal wave of creativity and mass adoption of the technology. Today, Runway is excited to introduce the next step forward in generative AI, Gen 1, a video generation AI system that can efficiently generate video in any style, all while retaining quality and flexibility. Gen 1 is able to realistically and consistently apply the composition and style of an image or text prompt to the target video, allowing you to generate new video content using an existing video. We call this approach video to video, and we're incredibly excited to share a few early use cases. Stylization mode. Transfer the style of any image or prompt to every frame of your video. Storyboard mode. Turn mockups into fully stylized and animated renders. Mask mode. Isolate subjects in your video and modify them with simple text prompts. Render mode. Turn untextured renders into realistic outputs by applying an input image or prompt. And customization mode. Unleash the full power of Gen 1 by customizing the model for even higher fidelity results. Gen 1 represents a pivotal step forward in generative AI, one that brings us meaningfully closer to realizing the future of storytelling.
Now, as you can imagine, that a lot of creative producers, when they drop storyboards or sketches, they can use this software right away. It's called Runway ML, to visualize their ideas, to discover what they might be able to create. And well, then to finish it off with Deliver, I know many developers, many programmers, they use this GitHub's Copilot, and it saves them hours of work, because you can just, in natural language, say what you need in code, and then it generates the code for you. And if you want to translate, say, from C# to Java or to Python, you can just tell it to do that, and it auto-generates the code for you. And it saves them a lot of time. So to conclude, what I think when it comes to creative business and users, we should not use generative AI for outputs only, because it marginalizes the creative process, or the process that any professional or expert goes through in her or his way of working. But you can use it to get new ideas, new perceptions, new perspective on things. And obviously, you can use generative AI, but also the discriminative AI as an assistant to tell you, it can do predictive analysis to tell you what to put your money on what kind of things, or what to focus your efforts on. And well, to conclude, I have a short video. It's just, I think, 60 seconds. It's a duet with a human and AI, and it's an actual literal duet. Holly Herndon is a singer, and she has cloned her singing voice, and now she's able to do two things. She can reach higher octaves than she physically can, and she can sing in languages which she doesn't speak. And now she does a third thing, and when you look at this video, and this is where I leave, I would like you to think, what will be my duet with AI? And we should skip to, I think, 5:44, because we don't need the start. So if you can skip to 5:44, if that's possible. It is a nice video, but it takes 50 minutes, so it's a bit too long, I would say, for now. So I hope it's possible to skip it to 5:44. They're working on it. This is the actual singer, Holly Herndon. A bit further. Is it possible that we can skip it to 5:44?
That was my voice, but I didn't sing that clip. I trained an AI on my own voice, and now she can sing anything in multiple languages. Her name is Holly Plus, and you just heard her perform El Cant de la Sibila, which is a traditional song arranged by Maria Arnal in Catalan. Not a language that I speak, and not a vocal tradition that I've trained in.
Then maybe we'll have to skip it for now, and I'll show it during the coffee break. I'll be at some table with my laptop. You can, if you want to see, it's really nice. Look it up, Holly Herndon, Holly Plus. Think about your duet with AI. Thank you.